A pleasant good morning to every one of us, especially to our dear professor, Sir June Caron, and of course sa atin pong mga classmates. And good morning po. For this week's report, so I'm gonna use Tagalog. So gagamit po ako ng ating sariling wika para po sa pag-report. But although I'm gonna use English just for the presentation to go well. So the topic that was given to us, actually I am with Mr. Rodolfo Jr. Go. So I would be the presenter. So the topic that was given to us is entitled Philippine cartoons, political caricature during American era or during the time when Americans colonized the Philippines. So readings in Philippine history. So let's get it on. So let's talk about first the author. Actually, the source is considered as primary source, and it is as I have mentioned, it is entitled the Philippine cartoons, political caricature during American era. So let's begin with the author, sir. With the author, but before that, I would like to say and emphasize that this source is not actually. I mean, this source is just a compilations and analysis of the different caricatures being compiled by Sir Alfred. And yung mga author po na i-discuss po natin later, pero hindi po siya yung mga gumawa. Bali, nag-compile lang siya since isa siyang historian and writer and nagkaroon siya ng interest sa Philippines since yung Philippines is aside from the fact na na-colonize tayo ng American from 1900s up to 1941, nagkaroon siya ng interest na mag-compile ng mga iba't ibang political caricatures which is nagawa ng mga Pilipino para i-showcase kung ano yung mga naranasan ng mga Pilipino, ng mga kapwa natin Pilipino when the time when the American occupation or when the time that the Americans colonized us. So, let's begin. So, Alfred R. William McCoy. So, Alfred R. William McCoy was born on June 8, 1945 in Concord, Massachusetts, United States, of course. He studied Southeast Asian history at Yale University. In 1971, he was commissioned to write a book on the opium trade in Laos. So during his research, he discovered that the French equivalent of the Central Intelligence Agency, or the SDECE, financed all their covert operation from the control of the Indochina drug trade. So McCoy also found evidence that after the United States replaced the French in Southeast Asia, the CIA also became involved in this trade. As he later pointed out, their mission was to stop communism, and in pursuit of that mission, they would ally with anyone and do anything to fight communism. So, Cord Meyer is a senior official in the CIA and a key figure in Operation Mockingbird. Became aware of Alfred McCoy's manuscript and made effort to have the book well withheld from publication. The publisher leaked the story to the media, and the book, The Politics of the Heroine, was published in 1972. Now it is in its third revised edition. This book has been translated into 9 languages. So Dr. Alfred W. McCoy, who is a professor of history at the University of Wisconsin, Massachusetts, Madison, 30 years writing about Southeast Asian history and politics. So he also served as the director of the Center of Southeast Asian Studies, which is a federally funded national resource center. He spent also the past quarter century of his life writing about politics and history of the opium trade. So kung mako-confuse kayo what is opium trade, so yung opium, it is similar to yung characters, it's a latex which comes from the seed of a specific tree, and yung kanyang yung baka kasi magulan kayo, yung kanyang characteristics ay pwede siyang gawing illegal drugs. At yun nga yung pinapoint out dito sa gawa niya. So, McCoy's biography. So, born to Alfred Mudge McCoy Jr. and Margarita Pial, a noted urban planner, educator, and descendant of the originators of Pial's beer. So, McCoy graduated from Kent School in 1964, where he earned varsity letters in football, rowing, and wrestling. He earned a Bachelor of Arts in European History from Columbia University in 1968, a Master of Arts in Asian Studies from the University of California, Berkeley in 1969, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Southeast Asian History from Yale University in 1977. So, going through McCoy's academic career. So, McCoy began his teaching career as a lecturer at Yale University while he was still a doctoral student during the years of 1976 until 1977. He spent the next academic year of him as a research fellow at the Australian National University. McCoy remained in Australia at the University of South Wales as a lecturer. That was the time of 1978 to 1981. So senior lecturer the year of 1981 until 1985, and was eventually promoted to associate professor in the years of 1985 until 1989. And then he returned to the United States in 1989 as a full professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where he has since spent his career. McCoy has been given 2 endowed chairs during his tenure. G.R.W. Smale during the years of 2004 until 2015, and Fred Harvey Harrington up to 2015. And McCoy served on the faculty of the University of the New South Wales for 11 years. And also in 1989, he joined University of Wisconsin-Madison. One of the world's McCoy academic careers continuation. So one of the world's leading historians of the Southeast Asia and an expert on Philippine political history, opium trafficking in the Golden Triangle, as well as the underworld crime syndicates and international political surveillance. So McCoy served on the faculty of the University of South Wales and 11 years. So going through, these are some of the published works of Alfred McCoy, the author. So, since isa siyang writer, marami siyang naisulat na mga iba't ibang na-publish ng mga iba't ibang books, and it includes yung ating pinag-aaralan ngayon, which is the primary source, the compilations of the political caricature made by the Filipinos, and then kinumpile niya, at ayun nga, dahil nga siya ay isang writer and historian, nagkaroon siya ng interest sa Philippine history kasi nga, yun naman yung pinag-aaralan niya, yung Southeast Asian history. And then here are some published works of Alfred McCoy. So first is The Politics of Heroin, the CIA complicity in the global drug traffic. So kung mapapansin nyo, hindi lang siya kung mapapansin niyo yung mga gawa ni Alfred McCoy is about politics. I mean, lahat ng mga bagay-bagay na napatungkol sa politika, kasi nga mamaya as we go through the presentation, mamaya may ginawa kasi siya, maraming compilation. Honestly, it was 377, but I'm gonna mention some of them kasi nga maubos yung oras natin. We are given 45 minutes lang. So ito na, going through. The politics of heroin, CIA complicity in the global drug traffic. So the first book, this is the first book to prove CIA and the US government complicity in global drug trafficking. The politics of heroin includes meticulous documentation of dishonesty and dirty dealings at the highest levels from the Cold War until today. So yun, yung laman niya pala ay isa siyang, nagpapatungkol siya sa CIA and the US government complicity in global drug trafficking. Naglalaman niyo siya ng mga dirty na mga dealings, I mean yung mga discrepancies, I mean like yung mga bribery, something like yung mga highest level ng, kumbaga sa Tagalog ay isang katiwalian, parang something ganun. Maintaining a global perspective, this groundbreaking study details the mechanics of drug trafficking in Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and South in Central America. Ayun. So, nakafocus talaga siya sa drug trafficking, which is yung, even until today, is isa pa ring napakalalang sitwasyon kahit na sa ating bansa, aminin man natin o hindi. So, going through. So, new chapter detail U.S. involvement in the narcotics trade in Afghanistan and Pakistan before and after the fall of the Taliban, and how the U.S. drug policy in Central America and Colombia has increased the global supply of illicit drugs. So, yun yung nilalaman ng the politics of heroin, CIA complicity in the global drug traffic. Honestly, parang lang bigyan kayo ng idea sa mga ginawa naman niya. At least, ito na naman yung pangalawa. Pangalawa is yung Closer Than Brothers, Manhood at the Philippine Military Academy. So, guys, I would like to be clear. I just want to emphasize na ito yung mga published, yung dalawa lang itong in-include namin, yung dalawa niyang published books. So, yung pinaka-main pinaka-main focus talaga natin dito is yung Philippine cartoons, the political caricature during American era or during the American colonization. So, iniisa-isa lang natin para naman malaman nyo and then mabigyan naman kayo ng approach, since ito yung dalawa niyang, kung papansinin niyo yung dalawa niyang na-published na books ay similar din siya sa ating pinag-uusapan na primary source. Yung pagkakaiba nga, which is about politics, yung pagkakaiba nga lang nila ay malalaman nyo later. So, this book, to give you a short, brief discussion, in these innovative books, ayan, Alfred W. McCoy takes a new approach to the military and political history of the Philippines. Ayan, kung makikita nyo flag banner ng Philippines. Comparing two generations of graduates from the Philippine Military Academy or PMA, nakilala rin naman natin lahat, the classes of 1940 and 1971. McCoy uncovers fundamental differences in their academic socialization and subsequent ascent to power. Viewed through this comparative lens, the story of these two classes become the history of the entire Philippine Army, offering important insights into complexities and of these officers, as well as on diaries and memoirs or yung mga biography and autobiography. The book details for the first time activities of the secretive brotherhood that is the Filipino Officer Corps. Members of the class of 1940 who bonded to one another in PMA training modeled after West Point emerged from heroic battles against Japanese invaders with their belief in civil supremacy over the Philippine military affirmed. In post-war decades, they actively blocked attempts. By contrast, the class of 1971 emerged from the academy to become the fist of the Marcos dictatorship. Their involvement in torture ruptured the academy's socialization and inspired them to launch six cop attempts in the late 1980s, where the collective biographies of these officers offer insights not only into Philippine history but also into topic of wider global import, which is the affluence of male gender on a distinctly gendered institution, the causes of cauditat and codita in the collective trauma of torture. So, ayun, yung parang, yung laman nito, short insight ng book na to publish work ni Dr. Alfred McCoy, ay yung pag-compare sa mga students, especially sa batch 1940 and 1971. Yung nagkaroon siya ng comparison doon sa mga students ng PMA, the Philippine Military Academy. So, background of the material. So, di ba, ang dami na pinagdaanan. So, background of the material to get focused on the main argument and topic. So, for the background of the material, political caricature during American era from 1900s until 1941. So, the Philippine cartoons gained full expression during the American era. Filipino artists recorded national attitudes toward the coming of the American, as well as the changing mores and times, while the 377 cartoons compiled in this book speak for themselves. Historian Alfred McCoy's extensive research in Philippine and American archives provides a comprehensive background not only to the cartoons but to the turbulent period as well. So, yung yung background ng material na to, so, nung mga panahon kasi na sinakop tayo ng mga Amerikano, hindi mula sa 1900s hanggang 1941. Nung mga time na to, lilinawin ko lang hindi kasama dito sa mga colonizer, although American citizen si Dr. Alfred McCoy, hindi siya kasama sa mga sumakop sa atin during the year of 1900s until 1941. But then, isa siyang American citizen na ipinanganak noong 1945. So, kung papansinin nyo, di ba, malayong-malayo na magiging kasama siya sa American occupation. But then, even though isa siyang Amerikano, nagkaroon siya ng baka kasi magkaroon ka ng katanungan, nagkaroon siya ng interest sa Philippine politics, especially during American era, which is na kinonvey ng mga Filipino in terms of caricature or cartoon. So, mamaya discuss ko yan. Wow. Ito nga, nagkaroon ng full expression during American era kasi ibang-iba talaga yung culture at yung ways, mamaya discuss ko din, ng ating mga Pilipino sa panahon ng mga Espanyol at panahon ng mga Amerikano. So, going through, ayan. So, 377 cartoons yung laman na kinompile ni Dr. Alfred sa kanyang libro na pinamagatang Philippine Cartoons, Political Caricature During American Era, 1900s to 1941. Lahat ng mga kinompile na cartoons speaks for themselves, meaning maraming nakatago behind that cartoons or behind that caricature. Kaya na, yun nga, comprehensive background. At hindi lang yung mga background na yun na nangyari sa Pilipinas, kundi yung mga bad sides na rin na nagawa ng mga Amerikano noon sa pananakop sa atin. So, this is the content presentation and analysis. So, the characters, to emphasize on the good sides, are shown in the normal feature, while the bad, emaciated, leering, laughing creatures, more on animal than human features. So, yung mga character, yung caricature kasi siya, isa siyang like comics, like mamaya magbibigay ako ng mga sample. Isa siyang comics. Para siyang comics, which is the editorial part siya ng diaryo, mapapansin. Kasi nga 'di ba, kung mapapansin natin ngayon, since wala nang, although meron pa rin namang diaryo, but hindi na siya ganoon ka active compare before. Kung dati nga nakakabasa ako ng mga dyaryo, yung hinanap, hindi ko alam kung naranasan nyo rin, ba't din naranasan ko yun. Usually, pag bumibili ng mga sabon, pansin nyo yun, yung mga laman niya, yung balot niya is dyaryo. That's why, pag nagbabasa ako noon, tinitingnan ko yung editorial part o yung may mga comics part. Yun yung example ng caricature. Yung parang may mga drawing siya, tapos merong iba na may sulat, but then, mas lamang yung drawing or yung illustration compare sa written output. So, dito nga sinasabi na yung mga character doon sa caricature na yon na good side are shown in the normal features. For example, kasi yan sa mga ganyan is yung discrimination, yung mga political dynasty, yung mga ganon. Yung victim, kumbaga, para mas maintindihan nyo, yung victim ng isang discrimination, pinapakita siya bilang normal na tao. Pero yung kanyang bad side, I mean yung mga bully, pinapakita siya sa caricature na yun as karamihan laging mga animal feature, like yung ulo niya, buhaya, yung ulo niya ahas, tapos katawang tao, parang ganun. Pero yung isa, yung good side, which is yung victim, laging maayos yung presentation sa kanya. So, the artists usually using their cartoons illustrated not just their opinions but under broad image of the Philippines under the US. So yung mga artist nga like Fernando Amorsolo, yung mga artist na yun sa pamamagitan ng pagguhit ng cartoon, although isang painter si Fernando Amorsolo, nakagawa pa rin siya ng mga Philippine cartoons na nakumpile nga dito, isa rin sa mga example nun. Hindi lang daw mga opinyon yung nako-convey doon, kundi yung mukha ng Pilipinas mismo sa pananakop na mga naranasan ng Pilipinas mismo sa pananakop ng mga Espanyol, ng mga Amerikano. So, the transition from Spanish colonial period to American occupation shows different changes as well as in the culture. So, society and politics. So the drastic introduction of democracy to a nation not properly about it and its consequences are far from ideal. Thus, it ushered free press. The rich remained affluent and powerful, while the poor people remained poor, desperate, and victims of state oppression. So, ito na nga. So, yung pagbabago daw mula sa mga Espanyol or pananakop ng mga Espanyol, kasi nga sinakop tayo ng mga Espanyol ng 333 years, more than 3 century din yun. Ayun nga, yung pagbabago ng Pilipinas from the Spanish colonization or the colonial period to American occupation shows different changes not only in culture, society, but most of all in politics. Ayun nga, the drastic introduction. Yung democracy, hindi siya talaga naramdaman ng mga Pilipino. Kasi nga, yung mga panahon na yon, yung mga mayaman, mas lalong yumaman, while yung mga mahirap, mas lalong humirap. Although sinabi, diba, sa history, kung babalikan, sinabi ni Douglas MacArthur na I shall return. But then, bumalik siya, although naago na yung ganon, parang may nangyari pa rin na hindi pagkakaunawaan, lalo na sa in terms of politics. So, ito yung mga examples. Ito yung mga awards na natanggap ng SOAR na ni Dr. Alfred nang ginawa niya yung SOARs na or yung book na Political Caricature During the American Era. So, first, the Philippine Catholic Mass Media Award. Second, the Best Book of the Year for 1945. So, third, the Philippine National Book for History, the year of 1986. Gintong Aklat Award in Manila, as well as the Special Citation for History in 1987. And this is the examples na siya. Ito na po yung mga examples na mga cartoons na kinumpile ni Dr. Alfred McCoy. So, caricature. So, first of all, what is caricature? Caricature and cartoon in graphic art comically distorts drawing or likeness done with the purpose of satirizing or ridiculing its subject. What does it mean when we say satirizing? Yung satirizing, satire, para siyang tinatago niya yung meaning eh. Parang hindi directly sa pagtingin mo ng isang artwork or isang caricature or ng isang cartoon or graphic arts like comics, sa pagtingin mo ng isang picture na yun, hindi mo masasabi na bad yung kanyang pinapakita kung hindi mo siya i-analyze deeper more than sa kung anong nakikita mo. Kasi nga, usually, yung pagka-present is parang normal drawing, tapos may mga shaded parts, yung mga animal features, mga ganon. But then, minsan titingnan mo, mas parang nakakatawa siya. But then, behind those drawings and behind those lines, arrows, that the author or the writer or the cartoonist used, may mga nakatago palang meaning yun siya. Ayan. It's a picture, description, or imitation of a person in which certain striking characteristics are exaggerated in order to create a comic or catastrophic effect. Yun nga. That's it. That's the caricature. So, for ito na, baba sa 377 na kinumpile ni Dr. Alfred McCoy, 377 yung kinumpile niya, but then yung hindi ko naman sinama lahat kasi nga mauubos yung time. We only have 45 minutes, so that's why. For the caricature number 1, so this is the American worker and Filipino worker. This during November 9, 1928. Yan, gawa yan siya during those time. So, this is refers to a tenfold difference Filipino and American manual wages within the colony, but to a more fundamental inequality, the difference in wages and working conditions between countries. So, ito nga, yung examples is yung mamumuong Amerikanhon and mamumuong Pilipinhon. Kung mapapansin nyo sa caricature or sa image, $5 daily yung isa. Tapos yung isa, 1 peso daily. Comparing dun sa ginagawa nila, mas mabigat yung ginagawa ng Pilipino, which is yung nagbubuhat pa siya, pero yung may trolley or yung cart na sinasakay niya dun, parang mas easier. Tapos, much pa yung paid sa American na worker compared doon sa Filipino worker na ang laki ng binubuhat niya, tapos under the heat of sunlight, tapos yung sahod niya, i-compare niya, mas mura, tapos sa Amerikano, mahal-mahal. Yan pinapakita yung pagkakaiba ng worker ng Filipino at American during the American occupation. So, for the caricature number 2, this is entitled Convenient Blindness. So, in this caption, it says that in a province near Manila, gambling is so widespread to everyone. The municipal president, provincial board, and the governor do nothing but gamble. So, ito nga, pinapakita dito yung isang bisyo na hanggang ngayon ay dala-dala pa rin ng mga Pinoy, lalo na yung mga may mga pera, yung pagsusugal. Ito, dito sinasabi na malapit daw sa na isang probinsya malapit sa ating punong lungsod yung Manila. So, laganap daw yung pagsusugal. Kasama na dito yung mga taong nasa posisyon, katulad ng presidente, provincial board, and governor. So, ginawa ang convenient blindness noong taong 1908, noong June 6, 1908. So, ayan, pinapakita dyan na mga sugar. Although, lahat naman sila na nasa posisyon, kahit na nasa posisyon sila, hindi doon pinagbabawal na mag-gambling. Parang normal lang yun sa American occupation. So, going through, so the caricature number 3 entitled A New Wrinkle in the Art of Thieving. So, ginawa ito noong January 14, 1922. So, they clean, cultivate, and improve the land while I am the owner with the Torrens title. Ellos limpian, cultivante y mejoran el terreno mientras Humi hago proprietario y obquento titulo Torrens. Yung Torrens title, ito yung parang titulo siya. Ito kasi yung dito, it shows the city capitalized using the Torrens title process, which required relinquish of customary claims to issue clear titles to grablands in Nueva Ecija and other central Luzon provinces. Ayan, although baka nagugulan kayo, to make it clear for you guys, ito yung mga dinidiscuss ko is parang insights lang about dun sa specific caricature na kinumpile ni Dr. Alfred McCoy. But then yung pinaka main focus natin is yung Philippine cartoons. At ito nga mga examples niya. Kung mapapansin niyo parang binigyan lang namin siya ng mga a little na insights about doon. Pero yung pinapakita talaga nito yung political caricature, which means yung mga nararanasan ng mga Pilipino dati. And yung wrinkle in the art of thieving, di ba? Kung mapapansin nyo, sabi niya, they clean, cultivate, and improve the land, but I am the owner with the Torrens title. Kasi di ba noon, kung mapapansin nyo, sa panahon ng mga Espanyol, hindi pa uso yung mga titulo ng lupa. Ngayon na lang yan mga panahon ng mga Amerika. Noon, sabi ng mga matatanda noon, kung naririnig dyan sa mga lola-lolo nyo, kung ano daw yung naaabot ng paningin mo, yun daw yung sayo. Pero, kung ikukumpara yung mga naranasan nating mga Pilipino sa Espanyol at sa Amerikano, pareho lang tayong nagipit. Hindi tayo nakahinga, although maraming nangyari, maraming pagbabago, pero pareho lang talaga yung ano nila. Yun ay yung pananakop at gusto nilang gawin sa ating bansa. Ayan, for the caricature number 4. Ito yung Why the Aparcer Rebels. It shows the form of landlord usury used to strip tenant farmers of their rightful share of the harvest. Ayan, tingnan mo. Yung